Hello, everybody. This is Taco C with Taco Movie Talks, episode 6. Right now, we have a slightly truncated review, slightly less movies than usual, but by this weekend, you will have the full amount. So, if you're watching this, be on the lookout. There is going to be an even newer video this weekend with a special treat. And I really hope that you like this video, and I really hope that you like the other video that I'm going to be doing. As you will see, great movies chosen for the next video, and pretty good movies chosen for this one as well. We got some newer directors to me, and then definitely some ones that I've heard of before in Cronenberg and Tarkovsky. But first, we'll get started with John Krasinski in A Quiet Place Part 2. And I don't know if I would say I'm surprised by how good he was able to pull this one off, but I did find it very good. And the instant comparison that I made after viewing this was that a lot of people did find Bird Box to be good, but it didn't quite resonate with me. It stayed in like a similar universe of its own creation with very specific rules, and the resolution for this it made more sense to me than with Bird Box. And it was, it's a really weird thing, weird parts that I got hung up on with Bird Box, but none of those things bothered me with this. So the enjoyment that some of you out there listening might have got for Bird Box was kind of what I got from this film. Had a good cast, fairly good, child actors, and Emily Blunt is pretty darn good, and Cillian Murphy is definitely an actor that I've come to respect very much, and he's pretty much going to deliver on everything that you insert him in. I liked how it explored the world itself a lot more. You got a sense for what was going on in the universe of this film, and I liked the first one. I think I like this one better. I think it would I might have to do like a rewatch of both part 1 and part 2 to have a final verdict on this one. But if you like the first one, clearly you're gonna like the second one. They did not drop the ball. If anything, I think they were able to progress upon a solid plot that they had in the first. So not a whole lot I can take away from this, and caps off to John Krasinski, because I really did think some of the shots, it paid homage to the horror films of the past, and some of the shots were just really good classic type shots that you want to do as far as framing and using up the full screen to tell a story. I was very impressed, and he is someone who I think is nailing the basics in a way, and he's doing it so good that I think he's not going to so much have a hard fall off like sometimes you can see from certain directors. What he's doing it's not style over substance. He has a lot of good substance there to fall back on. And also, I thought the opening scene was absolutely amazing. Really liked the opening scene. It was a great way to kick off a horror movie, especially a second entry. So, yes, very much a fan of that, and do recommend it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, so be sure to check it out, as I think they might have just very recently added it to Amazon Prime. So if you're an Amazon Prime customer, go ahead and give that one a shot. Moving on to our next movie, we have Pig, which is it's structured very similar to movies you had seen, but it's very unique in the minutia that it goes into as far as details for like the restaurant business. So this is like a very small niche, I would say, as far as truffles. And I guess pigs can help you sniff out like where good truffles are, and that is how we are introduced to Nicolas Cage's character. He lives very, very off the grid, remote, with his pig in a cabin in the woods. And he has like a businessman visit him for a shipment or a package of truffles. And I mean, leave it to Nicolas Cage. I think at this point he's just really trying to explore what he is able to do. And he pulled this off really well because there was a lot of complexities to this character where as we learn more about him, it's not like this was a life that he's always known, and that's why he resides in the middle of nowhere. It's more or less him trying to get away, I think, from the pain that he did find in society. And I think this is going to be a movie that I'm going to more or less go into the spoiler territory for. So if you haven't seen Pig, check it out on Hulu. It's a really good movie. If you like I would say if you like Nicolas Cage, you're going to really like this. It's a very understated performance. He's not a wild man by any means. And plot-wise, it's very, very interesting. And I think my appreciation for this movie has grown via just letting it, kind of bounce around in my head. To where if I were to rewatch this, it might get a higher rating on review. But Nick Cage gets his pig taken from him in the middle of the night, and he uses the person who he sells truffles to basically try and get his pig back. But what turns out, like what you would expect the buyer to kind of be making all the headway, as we learn more about Nick Cage, aka Rob Feld, I believe, we learn that he was like a freaking boss in the restaurant business, as he was the top chef in Portland and has a lot of respect. And it goes really, it's like, and this is something that I like in a lot of movies where people kind of talk shop, whether it's made up or not, into different industries to kind of give you a look behind the curtain into the inside goings on of the restaurant biz. But there was like a restaurant fight club where you would get money based on how big of a name you are, and it seemed like when Nick Cage showed up, he was like the biggest name there. And the twist is that the buyer, who is actually the main male child / teenager in Hereditary, who is also a very good actor in his own right, his father in this movie is also in the truffle business and paid the basically tweakers like to take the pig from Nicolas Cage because they realize he's able to find the best truffles in the business. Which, describing it sounds very, very absurd. But when you watch this movie, you're definitely along for the ride the whole way through. It's very captivating in that sense. So there's nothing about this that like really drags or anything. And I'm going to just turn the music down for a second just to make sure. that audio is coming through clearly. Sorry for that. But in finding that out, Nick Cage is kind of not super badgering him, but he's trying to come up with a plot because the dad is basically just saying, drop it. There's, like, this is going to be bad for you if you keep trying to pursue me or the pig. Then insert another smaller detail. It turns out that the man responsible for the kidnapping and his wife, who is now pretty much a recluse due to medical issues, had their best meal when Nicolas Cage cooked. And it was a meal that they always remembered. And it turns out Nicolas Cage also remembered it and made him the exact dish that he made him like over a decade ago. So, and it makes, the pig kidnapper just weep and ultimately tell him that the pig died due to the people kidnapping it being way too rough with the pig. Which sounds like a huge downer, but it seems as though this pig was like sort of a band-aid, trying to, like, the one emotional attachment that Nicolas Cage would have to keep himself preoccupied from thinking about the actual things of his past. And this journey in meeting contacts that he had previously when he was in the restaurant business allowed him to get to a point where he could begin to move on, which is ultimately the point at the end of the movie, where even though this thing is realized for Nick Cage, it brings him to a place where he can accept past trauma that has happened, and it allows him to actually grieve in a way that I think he never truly did with losing his wife, who passed away. And I think that is the big trauma that happened to him previously that he's been avoiding this whole time. Ultimately, a very good movie. I had said before, I think on a review, I might bump this one up because I did think it was really good. It was very enjoyable. Cool plot. It was similar, but it was going in detail into something so new that it felt very different in that way. So I gave it a 3.5 stars out of 5. Definitely recommend go seek that out on Hulu if you haven't already, because I do think you will really like it. And let's move on to the next movie, which is Mir by Andrei Tarkovsky. And this was a movie that came up on my Letterboxd page, which I will link down in the description of this video, that you can check out, because I have lists on horror movies, which the next movie we're going to be discussing pops up on, as well as my favorite movies, a bunch of lists. You can see the reviews of the movies I'm watching as I do them, so you can watch them in preparation to watch this video if you do want to do that. This is a very, I think ethereal might be a good way to describe it, as the atmosphere is something that Andrei Tarkovsky is really able to nail very well. I think he might be perhaps the best at doing that, and I think that is what has made him one of the all-time greats as far as directors go. And I found that in Stalker he was able to do that very well, and I think he even might have nailed that even better with this film. I think I just resonated more with the narrative for Stalker and found not the gimmick, but the hook or the idea to be more compelling. which is not to say that this is not compelling. The best way I can describe this is the thoughts and feelings that you would go through before you die. And that is very much the plot of this movie, as a middle-aged man is dying and he recounts all of his memories and dreams from his life and the moments that made him who he really is. And I saw reviews for this movie after I finished it, and someone's review said in a definitely more compelling or intriguing manner, but it's like, what makes up a person? And it's ultimately the experiences that stick with us consciously and subconsciously that really develop us into who we are. And we get to see that for this main character. That made this a very cool movie, because there is not much like it in terms of what it was able to do and how it was able to pull it off. So honestly, I think this movie is spoiler proof. I really don't think you can give away anything to this movie that would make it unwatchable or something where you're like, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have gone in knowing that. In fact, I think all the information that you've heard about this movie would make it you able to realize what is happening, because I either didn't read the summary for this or misread it, and I was very much trying to piece this together as I'm watching it. And it wasn't until afterwards and I read the summary and it made a lot more sense. Not to say everything in this made sense, because there's certainly a lot of symbolism, there's certainly a lot of themes that are well above my pay grade. But I was like, okay, it had a feel. And that feel, it felt very much like it was projecting the thoughts and dreams of someone onto a screen. To be able to do such a task, I think, is very, very impressive. So go seek this out. I think if you have Prime, you can search this movie and watch it for free with your Prime subscription with ads. So definitely seek this out if you're a big fan of Tarkovsky. I don't know if this would be the film I would check out first. They're all a little heady. I might start with Solaris because it has a lot more to latch on to. There's not so much of a plot line in this, just besides this is a man's life. If you're into films like this, you'll love this, but I would maybe recommend Solaris as a place to start with Tarkovsky, but this being my third film of his that I've watched, it was pretty darn good, and I feel like I was able to appreciate it more, having a little bit more of an expectation as to how he tells stories. So that was really good. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars for what it's able to accomplish. And there's, when it comes to framing a beautiful shot, if you look at the bottom right, that's a tremendous shot. And there's one that was on the poster for this title screen that's just like absolutely amazing. And as I've grown my appreciation for stuff like that, I can totally see that what he's doing is not by any means easy. It takes a master craft. On top of that, for me, being able to get the feel that you're in someone else's mind is so... I don't know how he was able to quite do that. He did it very well. So for both of those reasons, 4 out of 5 stars. And definitely go check that out. As for our last movie for this episode, for this week, for episode 6, we have Scanners by David Cronenberg. And admittedly, I think Definitely for sure on Letterbox, this was the first one that I logged of Cronenberg's. And there's a reason Cronenberg is a legend in the horror industry, and by golly, those effects were just next level. I really, really like the effects. The plot was good enough to make this a rewarding experience all around, where it's kind of like a mystery trying to find out what the main villain is planning or what he is up to. So, cat and mouse chase in a way with enough twists to kind of keep you on end. And the ending of this movie is a really good ending, a really good conclusion to a pretty strong story. I don't want to go too much into spoiler territory, just so that you can watch it yourself and enjoy it. But damn, the final battle is pretty dang good. It's been like there's action movies where I feel like it sometimes doesn't pan out quite as well as it did for this movie. But for sure, makeup was on another level. Effects were freaking fantastic. And the story itself, the plot was really good. So it made everything about this film pretty dang enjoyable. A lot about it is timeless. I don't know. I wouldn't say this is a huge criticism of it, but the acting is a little bit stilted. I would say the bad guy in this film is perhaps one of the better actors of the bunch. But everything else is like it's overacted in a way where it walks a very fine line between comedic and where you're actually able to take it seriously. So it's not bad by any means, but it is overacted. There are very over dramatic moments about this, and luckily it did not fall into the territory where you can't quite take it seriously. I really did enjoy this, and I'm definitely looking forward to trying out more of David Cronenberg's stuff because man, his effects are, and I know they are, that if he can take this up a notch or do something, tell a different story with that artist touch that he has, I I would very much be willing to give that a shot. So that is all for this week's episode. Again, as I've said, there's going to be another video coming out this weekend. I'm going to be recording the day that I am recording this, and there is a big surprise. So definitely check it out. Also, if you haven't already, like and subscribe the video and comment any recommendation that you do have. I really much appreciate all of those things. It's been cool being able to do this. I hope more people are getting to see these videos every week, and I hope that you are enjoying them, and I hope that I am improving every week. I know it might be slow progress, and a lot of you who watch this are probably wondering when the heck is he finally going to be good at this? When is he going to stop doing this on Microsoft PowerPoint? Well, this is baby steps for sure. Doing this in my spare time, my free time, has made it so I can't quite invest all the time and energy that I would like to. I would love to just be able to pour hours and hours into this, do a video a night, but I do not I don't want this to just be me ranting and raving. This is more or less to thank you all for your support. I really appreciate it. So again, please like, subscribe, recommend a movie in the comments. Tell me something you would like to see me improve upon. Any comment really is welcome. And thank you all again. I do very much appreciate it. You have no idea. And I will catch y'all on the flippity floop. Bye, y'all, and thank you again.